Out of everything moving in your world today, you paused here, as if your spirit recognized a frequency it has been waiting to hear for a very long time. There is a timing to this arrival that you may not have noticed, a quiet alignment that has been unfolding beneath the surface of your daily routine. You may have been feeling a weight you couldn't explain, a sense of being out of sync with those who share your name, yet you didn't quite have the words for it until now. Don't rush past this moment just yet, my child, for there is a reason the clock of fate resets in the silence of your current awareness. My beloved, I speak to you from a place where the stars are gathered like grains of sand, a vault within the heavens where the records of every soul are kept in perfect clarity. You have often felt like a stranger in your own house, a traveler who accidentally sat down at the wrong family table, and this distance has left you in a state of frantic isolation. It is not that you lack love, but that your soul has sensed a poison within the roots of your lineage that others are content to ignore. You were not born to carry the toxins of the past, but to be the one who finally holds the light high enough to see them for what they truly are. You may have noticed how certain conversations feel like a maze, or how the smiles of those closest to you sometimes carry a shadow that leaves you feeling cold even in the sun. This is the awareness trigger that heaven has placed within you, a discernment that acts as a shield against the energy siphons who seek to live off your vitality. There is something about the way you've been protecting your peace lately that has caused a shift in the spiritual atmosphere around you. In a moment, this may become clearer as we look at the specific patterns that have tried to keep you small, but for now, simply acknowledge that your unease was actually your protection. Some share your blood but do not share your spirit, double-crossing kin who have whispered your name in rooms you have not yet entered. My heir, do not let this truth cause your heart to tremble, for exposure is the first step toward the majestic certainty that is your birthright. These siphons have relied on your silence and your willingness to believe the best of them, even when your intuition screamed otherwise. You may have felt a sudden drain on your energy after a simple phone call or a family meal, a heaviness that seems to cling to your skin like a fog. If something within you resonates, you may already understand why you're here, sitting in the quiet of this revelation. This vault within the stars holds a record of the ancestral soul poison that has been passed down like a heavy heirloom from one tired hand to the next. You were the one chosen to receive the white-hot solar flare of truth, a purifying light that will burn away the masks and the mirrors used to deceive you. Not everything is clear yet, and that is by design, for your soul must digest the reality of your identity before the full scope of your authority is revealed. You may have felt this before, a sudden rush of heat in your chest when a lie was told, even if you didn't say a word to correct it. This is your internal compass, reacting to the spiritual sabotage that has plagued your bloodline for generations, a cycle of silence that ends with your decision to listen. You are not here randomly, and the isolation you have felt was never a punishment. It was a sanctuary where I could reach you without the interference of those who wish to keep you bound. Stay with this moment for just a little longer, as there's something deeper here that connects to the very first breath you took. There is a person in your circle who has mastered the art of being a double-crosser, offering support with one hand while casting doubt with the other. My chosen, they do not even realize they are part of a larger architecture of delay, a system of ancestral poison that thrives on keeping the bright ones dimmed. You have noticed the subtle shifts in their tone when you share a victory, the way their praise feels hollow or carries a hidden sting. This is not your imagination, and the frantic feeling of trying to fix these relationships is finally being replaced by a majestic certainty that some things are meant to be left behind. Within this celestial setting, the eternal guardian of truth stands as your witness, watching over the moments you thought were invisible to the world. You have wept in private over the betrayals you couldn't quite prove, feeling the sting of energy siphons who take your kindness and return it as criticism. There is a reason you are hearing this now, a divine positioning that is readying you for a role you were always meant to play. The clock of fate resets not just for you, but for every child that will come after you, as you step into the role of the ultimate cycle terminator. Think back to a subtle, real-life moment when you felt a sudden urge to walk away from a gathering, even though nothing wrong had been said. That was your soul recognizing the energetic leakage happening in that room, the way your light was being harvested to feed the shadows of others. You may be noticing this now in your daily life, a growing intolerance for gossip and a deep craving for a truth that doesn't need to defend itself. If you feel supported here, you're always welcome to stay connected to this frequency, for the journey into your authority is only beginning. The ancestral soul poison often disguises itself as tradition or the way things have always been, but you have always been the one to ask why the water felt bitter. My beloved, your questions were not signs of rebellion. They were the first sparks of the solar flare that is now rising within your spirit. You have lived through a season of searching, looking for validation in the very places that were designed to deny it to you. Now, you are recognizing that the vault of your history is being opened, not to shame you, but to show you the divine key you've been holding in your hand all along. The majestic certainty you seek is not a loud or aggressive force, but a quiet, unshakable knowing that your path is now protected by the heavens. In a moment, this may become clearer as we explore how to identify the hidden pacts made by your ancestors that still affect your current abundance. You have carried the emotional heaviness of those who came before you, acting as a filter for their unresolved pain, but that contract is being dissolved in this very hour. Let this unfold for a second, and feel the lightness returning to your shoulders as you realize you are no longer the victim of your history. This transition from frantic isolation to divine direction is the most sacred part of your awakening, for it requires you to trust the silence of the vault. You may have noticed a shift in your dreams lately, symbols of open gates and light inscriptions appearing when your mind finally rests from the day's noise. These are messages from the guardian of truth, confirming that the barriers placed by double-crossing kin are finally crumbling under the weight of your new awareness. You are becoming the bridge between the old world and a new timeline where your energy belongs solely to you and the divine. Stay with this moment, my child, and notice what you are feeling in the center of your being as these truths settle. There is something deeper here, a connection to a future version of yourself that is already standing in the full glow of that white-hot solar flare. You are the one the bloodline was waiting for, the one who would be brave enough to name the poison and choose the medicine instead. If this resonated, take a moment to notice the peace that is beginning to replace the old, frantic rhythm of your heart, for you are home. Something about this moment brought you here, almost as if your spirit was tugged by an invisible thread toward a truth you weren't yet ready to see yesterday. There's a timing to this, a specific rhythm in the universe that is finally aligned to speak to the part of you that feels restless and unsettled. You may have sensed this before, a recurring whisper that there is more to your story than the scripts your family has written for you. Don't rush past this opening just yet, my beloved, for we are stepping into a silent inner chamber where the truth about your journey is carefully preserved. This is a place of absolute stillness, far removed from the noise of the world, where the eternal guardian of truth waits to hand you the divine key to your own liberation. My child, you have lived through a season of profound discomfort, a feeling of being a square peg in a round hole that has left you in a state of frantic isolation. You have often wondered why you are the only one who sees the cracks in the foundation, why you are the only one who feels the chill in a room that others claim is warm. This discomfort was never meant to be your permanent home. It was a divine signal, a spiritual alarm alerting you to the presence of ancestral soul, poison. This poison does not always look like malice. Sometimes it looks like overprotection, or a tradition that requires you to shrink so that others may feel large. You are not here randomly, and your awareness of this imbalance is the first sign that you are moving from silence into a terrifying yet beautiful clarity. You may have noticed how certain relatives seem to offer you advice that somehow leaves you feeling more confused than when you started. These double-crossing kin often use the language of love to mask the energy siphoning that occurs every time you share your dreams with them. They might tell you to be realistic or stay safe, but what they are really saying is, stay where I can reach you. My heir, this is a subtle form of spiritual sabotage that has been weaving through your bloodline for centuries. In a moment, This may become clearer as we examine why your specific light acts as such a threat to the shadow patterns they have spent a lifetime maintaining. In this silent inner chamber, the air is thick with the scent of ancient wisdom and the presence of those who came before you but refused to bow to the poison. The eternal guardian of truth holds a sealed scroll that contains the names of the energy siphons who have been quietly feeding on your hope. You may have felt this before. A sudden drop in your mood after a phone call with someone who claims to have your best interests at heart. This is not a flaw in your character, nor is it a sign that you are too sensitive, as they might have led you to believe. It is your soul's radar detecting the theft of your vitality, and it is the reason you have felt so alone in your journey toward the light. There is something about this specific time in your life that has made the ancestral soul poison more visible to your eyes. It is as if a divine key has been turned in your heart, allowing you to see the invisible contracts of guilt and obligation that have kept your ancestors bound to the same cycles of lack and fear. You are the one who has been marked as the ultimate cycle terminator, the one whose very presence causes the old walls of deception to tremble. If something within you resonates, you may already understand why the path you are on feels so much steeper than the one your siblings or cousins are walking. You are not just living your life. You are clearing a path for every soul that will follow in your footsteps. You may be noticing this now in the way your body reacts to certain family gatherings, a tightening in your chest, or a sudden headache that vanishes the moment you leave. This is a physical manifestation of the spiritual war being fought over your destiny, a sign that your energy is no longer compatible with the siphoning nature of your environment. There's something about this realization that brings a sharp, cold clarity, a moment where the frantic isolation begins to transform into a majestic certainty. You are beginning to realize that you do not need the approval of those who are committed to their own darkness. Stay with this moment, for there is a deeper layer to this revelation that connects back to a childhood memory you've long suppressed. Think of a subtle, real-life moment, perhaps a look shared across a dinner table or a comment made under the breath at a holiday event that made you feel small for no reason. In that moment, an energy siphon was attempting to ground your spirit, afraid that if you flew too high, they would be left behind in the shadows of their own making. My Koisin, they have used your empathy against you, making you feel responsible for their happiness while they work to undermine yours. This is a classic tactic of the double-crossing kin, a way to ensure that the bloodline remains trapped in a loop of mediocrity and spiritual exhaustion. But the eternal guardian of truth is showing you that the divine key you hold is not meant to unlock their doors, but your own. Not everything is clear yet, and that is because the majestic certainty you are moving toward is a process of shedding the old skin before the new one is fully formed. You are currently in the space between the silence and the clarity, a threshold where the old poisons are being purged from your spirit. You may have felt a sense of grief for the relationships you are outgrowing, a sadness for the people you can no longer save because you have realized they do not want to be saved. This grief is part of the cleansing process, a necessary step in becoming the cycle terminator who stands firm in their own power. There may be a reason you're hearing this now, at this exact crossroads in your life, when the choice to stay or to go has never been more vital. The silent inner chamber where we stand is a sanctuary of protection, a place where the double-crossing whispers of your kin cannot reach you. Here, you are reminded that your identity is not defined by the roles you play for others, but by the light you carry within. The eternal guardian of truth is watching you with a pride that transcends human understanding, recognizing the courage it takes to face the hidden poison of your lineage. You are not here to fix the unfixable. You are here to be the solar flare that illuminates the truth so brightly that the lies can no longer survive. If you feel supported here, you're always welcome to stay connected to this space of reflection, for there is much more to uncover. My child, the frantic isolation you have felt is finally coming to an end as the majestic certainty of your purpose begins to take root in your soul. You are no longer the victim of ancestral patterns. You are the one who has been chosen to write a new story, one free from the siphons and the saboteurs. The divine key has been used, the silent inner chamber has been opened, and the eternal guardian of truth has declared that your time of hiding is over. Take a moment to notice what you're feeling right now, the warmth in your hands and the steady beat of your heart, for you are the terminator of cycles and the herald of a new dawn. If this resonated, take a moment to notice what you're feeling, for that is the sound of your spirit finally coming home to itself. There's a reason you're seeing this right now, a quiet magnetism that pulled your attention away from the noise of the world and toward this specific frequency. Something is shifting quietly in the foundations of your life, a movement in the unseen that has been gathering strength for weeks while you were busy trying to find your footing. You may have sensed this before, a feeling that your life is a book with pages missing, or that you are searching for a home that doesn't exist in any physical location. Just give this a little space to breathe, my child, for we are entering an unseen place of reflection where the hidden archives of your spirit are finally ready to be opened. This moment is not about what you can do, but about what you are finally ready to recognize within the very core of your being. My beloved, you have spent years in a state of searching, wandering through the corridors of your family history, looking for a sense of belonging that never quite materialized. You have looked into the eyes of those you love, hoping to see a reflection of your own light, only to find a strange, flickering shadow that made you doubt your own worth. This searching was not a sign of your lostness, but a preparation for the moment you would finally stop looking outward and begin to see the light inscription written upon your own soul. The ancestral soul poison has tried to convince you that you are the one who is broken, when in reality, you are the only one in your line who is whole enough to feel the pain of the fracture. You are not here by accident, and the fatigue you feel is the exhaustion of carrying a map that was drawn by people who were never meant to go where you are headed. You may be noticing this now in the way your social circles are changing, as the double-crossing kin and energy siphons find it harder to maintain their grip on your attention. These individuals, often bound to you by blood or long-standing history, have a way of making their problems feel like your responsibility, using your empathy as a tether to keep you grounded. They operate in the subtle nuances of concern and advice, yet the fruit of their involvement is always a feeling of depletion and a lingering sense of guilt. There's something about this dynamic that you have finally begun to outgrow, an awareness that is making the old maneuvers of your family feel transparent and even tiresome. In a moment, this may become clearer as we explore why your soul is no longer accepting the invitations to dance in these cycles of drama. If something within you resonates, you may already understand why the air feels different today, as if a heavy curtain has been drawn back to reveal a sky you haven't seen in decades. This unseen place of reflection is where you can finally put down the armor you've worn to protect yourself from the subtle betrayals of those who were supposed to be your sanctuary. You have lived through moments where you felt like your energy was being harvested, perhaps while standing in a crowded grocery store or a quiet family room, suddenly feeling a wave of sadness that didn't belong to you. This is the awareness trigger, the realization that you have been acting as a spiritual sponge for a lineage that refuses to do its own healing. Stay with this space for a moment, for the identity you are moving toward is far more powerful than the role of the burden bearer you were assigned. My heir, you are the bloodline's ultimate cycle terminator, and this realization is the key that unlocks the next chapter of your becoming. The ancestral soul poison has thrived on secrecy and the silent agreement to keep the peace at the cost of your own soul, but that contract is now being incinerated by a white-hot solar flare of truth. This light does not seek to destroy your family. It seeks to destroy the lies that have kept your family in bondage to the siphons of energy and hope. You may have felt a micro-tension in your spirit lately, a sense that not everything is clear yet, and that is because you are still surrendering the old versions of yourself that were built on the expectations of others. You are not just a person with a family. You are a divine intervention in human form, sent to reset the clock of fate for every name on your family tree. If you feel supported here, you're always welcome to stay connected to this process of unveiling, for the transition from searching to becoming requires a steady hand and a quiet heart. The double-crossing kin have relied on your frantic isolation to keep you from realizing your own strength. But as you recognize the light inscription on your heart, their power over you begins to evaporate. Think of a subtle real-life moment when you chose not to explain yourself to someone who was committed to misunderstanding you. That small act of silence was a majestic victory, a signal to the spiritual realm that you are no longer available for the games of the energy siphons. You are beginning to understand that your peace is not a negotiation, but a sovereign territory that you are finally learning to defend. There is a relatable inner struggle you may be facing right now, a battle between the desire to be good and the necessity of being true. You have been taught that being a good child or a good sibling meant absorbing the soul poison without complaint, but the eternal guardian of truth is showing you that true goodness is found in the courage to be honest. This is the moment where searching ends and recognizing begins, a point of no return, where you can no longer pretend that the siphons are healthy or that the betrayals were accidental. The white-hot solar flare is rising, and as it does, it reveals the intricate webs of manipulation that have been spun to keep your energy diverted from your true purpose. Do not rush past this awareness, for the identity pull you are feeling is the call to step into a life that is entirely your own. Within this unseen place of reflection, the setting is quiet and the light is soft, allowing you to see the archives of your history without the sting of judgment. You are seeing the patterns not to condemn those who came before you, but to ensure that the poison stops with you, the heir of a new way of being. The double-crossing kin may continue their patterns, but they will no longer have access to the vault of your spirit, for the clock of fate has reset. You may have felt this before, a sudden sense of detachment that felt like coldness, but was actually the birth of your majestic certainty. You are becoming the one who can stand in the middle of a storm and remain unshakable, because your roots are no longer buried in the toxic soil of your ancestry. Not everything is clear yet, and that is perfectly okay, for your spirit is expanding to hold the weight of this new authority. You are moving from the role of a seeker into the reality of being a beacon, a transition that requires you to surrender the need for everyone to come with you. Some are committed to the darkness of the siphons, and your only responsibility is to ensure that your light is no longer used to fuel their deceptions. The light inscription is becoming bolder, more legible to your soul, and as you read the truth of your existence, the old frantic feelings are being replaced by a calm, steady power. There's a timing to this expansion, a seasonal shift in your spiritual life that is finally bearing fruit after years of hidden labor. My beloved, take a moment to notice what you're feeling in this quiet threshold, as the echoes of the searching phase finally fade into the distance. You have been chosen to be the flare that illuminates the path for the future, and that journey begins with the recognition that you are enough, just as you are. The siphons have no power over a soul that knows its own source, and the double-crossers cannot find a foothold in a heart that is anchored in truth. If this resonated, take a moment to notice the shift in your own energy, the way your breath feels deeper, and your spirit feels more expansive. You are becoming the majestic certainty you once sought, and the clock of fate has officially reset in your favor. Stay with this feeling of becoming, for you are finally walking in the light that was always meant for you. Out of everything moving through the world today, you paused here, as if your spirit felt a sudden, familiar pull amidst the static of your daily life. This moment may not be as ordinary as it seems, for there is a specific timing to our meeting that defies the clock and speaks directly to a hunger you have carried in silence. You may have been feeling a weight you couldn't quite explain, a heaviness in your chest that feels older than your own years, like a backpack filled with stones you never chose to carry. Stay with this for a moment. Let the noise of the world fade into the background, and allow this message to unfold within the quiet parts of your heart that have been waiting for recognition. We are stepping together into a silent corridor, a space between worlds where the archives of your lineage are held, and where the eternal guardian of truth stands ready to show you what has been hidden in the shadows of your bloodline. My heir, you have walked through much of your life feeling an inexplicable heaviness, a sense of grief or fatigue that didn't seem to belong to the events of your own day. You may have felt this before, perhaps waking up with a sigh that felt like it belonged to an ancestor, or feeling a wave of unearned shame while simply going about your business. This is the ancestral soul poison a residue of unhealed trauma and silent agreements that has been passed down through your family like a dark thread woven into a tapestry. You have been the one to notice the weight, because your soul is no longer compatible with the density of these old secrets. And the silent corridor we are walking now is designed to lead you toward the source of this burden. You are not being punished by this heaviness. You are being alerted to it because you are the only one with the strength to finally set it down. You may be noticing this now in the way you interact with certain family members, those double-crossing kin who seem to offer you a hand while secretly wishing to see you stumble. These individuals are the energy siphons of your lineage, people who have learned to survive by feeding on the vitality and hope of the brightest souls in the family tree. They operate in the subtle gaps of conversation, using guilt as a hook and obligation as a chain to keep you anchored to their own unresolved pain. There is something about the way they look at you, a mix of hunger and resentment that you have started to perceive with a new, sharp clarity. In a moment, this may become clearer as we look at how these siphons have tried to dim your light to make their own shadows feel less intimidating. But for now, simply notice the why behind your sudden need for distance. In this silent corridor, the walls are not made of stone but of memory. And as you walk, you might notice a light inscription beginning to glow upon the surface of your own spirit. This is your true identity, the mark of the ultimate cycle terminator, a soul specifically designed to process and transmute the poison that has stalled your family's progress for centuries. The eternal guardian of truth is here to remind you that your sensitivity was never a weakness. It was the very tool required to detect the leaks in the family's spiritual vessel. You may have felt a micro-tension in your life recently, a sense that a major shift is approaching, but you can't quite see the finish line yet. This is because the awareness of the poison must precede the release of it, and you are currently in the sacred middle of that transformation. Think of a relatable inner struggle you've faced lately. Perhaps the agonizing guilt of setting a boundary with someone who refuses to respect your peace. You worry that by choosing yourself, you are somehow betraying the loyalty of the family. Yet the eternal guardian of truth asks you, to whom is your primary loyalty due? You have seen the way the double-crossing kin use the concept of family to enforce a silence that only benefits the siphons, leaving the seekers like you to wither in the dark. This realization brings a wave of awareness that is both painful and liberating, as you see the invisible threads of the ancestral soul poison for what they truly are. Not everything is clear yet, but as the light inscription on your soul grows brighter, the deceptions of the past lose their ability to influence your future. Consider a subtle real-life moment, like a holiday dinner or a simple phone call, where you realize that the love being offered to you was actually a demand for your energy. You felt the drain almost instantly, a sudden exhaustion that made you want to retreat into total isolation just to recover your own sense of self. This is an awareness trigger, a moment where the spiritual reality of your family dynamic broke through the polite surface of your daily interactions. My Koisen, you are not crazy for feeling this, and you are not too spiritual for noticing the energetic exchange that leaves you empty, while others seem fueled by your presence. The silent corridor is showing you these moments not to stir up anger, but to provide the majestic certainty that you are allowed to walk away from what is meant to destroy you. If something within you resonates, you may already understand that the heaviness you've carried was actually the armor you wore to survive a war you didn't start. There is something about this moment that is calling you to finally shed that armor and embrace the release that comes with the truth. You are the one who is terminating the cycles of betrayal and the siphons of hope, and as you do, the ancestral soul poison is being neutralized by the sheer frequency of your honesty. The eternal guardian of truth is holding a mirror up to your lineage, and in that reflection, you can see where the light was stolen and where it is now being restored through your courage. You are moving from a state of being under the weight to being the one who defines the weight, a shift that changes the entire trajectory of your life. There is a deep, emotional recognition scene unfolding in your spirit right now, a moment where you finally permit yourself to stop fixing what you didn't break. You see the double-crossing kin for the wounded siphons they are, and instead of feeling responsible for their healing, you feel a profound sense of release. This is the majestic certainty of the cycle terminator, the realization that your only job is to carry your own light and keep the inscription of truth burning brightly in your own heart. In a moment, this may become clearer as you start to see the new path opening up before you, one that is free from the traps and the detours of those who came before. You are no longer searching for their approval, because you have found the approval of the stars and the guardian who has always known your name. If you feel supported here, you're always welcome to stay connected to this inner corridor of reflection, for the journey into your full power requires moments of deep, restorative silence. The siphons will try to call you back into the heaviness, using the old familiar songs of guilt and family duty, but you will find that those songs no longer have a melody that your heart recognizes. You are becoming a vessel for a much higher frequency, a solar flare of ancestral healing that clears the way for a legacy of truth and abundance. Not everything is clear yet, but the heaviness is lifting, and in its place is a steady, quiet awareness that you are exactly where you need to be. The clock of fate has reset, and the time of the cycle terminator has finally arrived in full glory. My beloved, take a deep breath and feel the space that has opened up within your spirit as you acknowledge these hidden truths. You have walked the silent corridor and faced the guardian, and you have emerged not with more burdens, but with the majestic certainty of your own soul's light. The ancestral soul poison is being washed away, and the light inscription on your heart is now a beacon for a future that is entirely yours to create. If this resonated, take a moment to notice what you're feeling, perhaps a lightness in your limbs, or a sudden sense of peace in your mind. This is the release you have been praying for, and it is the beginning of a life lived in the radiant truth of who you truly are. Stay with this feeling of release, for it is the sound of your spirit finally breaking free. There's a reason you're seeing this right now, a quiet magnetism that pulled your attention away from the constant movement of your day and toward this specific frequency of truth. You may not even know why you stopped here, but your soul recognized the stillness of this moment before your mind could find a name for it. You may have been feeling a strange sense of delay, a frustration that the doors you've been knocking on remain closed, yet you couldn't quite understand why your efforts felt so heavy. Just give this a little space to breathe, my child, for we are stepping into a still inner chamber where the archives of your destiny are being examined with infinite love and clarity. This moment is the intersection of your past struggle and the majestic expansion that is now ready to unfold. My heir, you have lived through a season where everything seemed to be on hold, a period of waiting that often felt like a spiritual exile. You have watched others move forward with an ease that seemed to evade you, and in that silence, you began to wonder if you were somehow forgotten by the heavens. But I tell you now that this delay was not a denial. It was a divine pause, a necessary interval to ensure that the ancestral soul, poison, would not follow you into the next room of your life. You have been carrying the weight of unsaid things and hidden pacts, and the still inner chamber is the place where we begin the sacred process of surrender. You are not here to fight the delay any longer, but to understand that it was the very thing protecting your expansion from being sabotaged by the ghosts of your lineage. You may be noticing this now in the way you view your family history, seeing the patterns of double-crossing kin who have used love to maintain a state of stagnation. These energy siphons have a vested interest in your delay, for as long as you are stuck, your light remains a resource they can tap into whenever their own wells run dry. They operate in the subtle world of what if and maybe not yet, planting seeds of doubt that feel like caution but act as poison to your momentum. There's something about the way they check in on your progress that feels less like support and more like an inspection of the cage they hope you haven't escaped. In a moment, this may become clearer as we look at why the burning seal on your heart is finally being activated to dissolve these invisible tethers. In this still inner chamber, the air is perfectly calm, and the only sound is the steady pulse of your own becoming. My beloved, you have spent so much energy trying to force doors open that were never meant for the person you were, but for the person you are now being called to be. The transition from delay to surrender is not an act of giving up, but an act of opening your hands so that the old toxins can finally fall away. You have felt a micro-tension in your life recently, a sense that something is shifting, but you can't quite grasp the handle of it yet. This is because the expansion you seek requires a heart that is no longer cluttered with the emotional debts of your ancestors, and the surrender you are practicing now is the clearing of that space. Think of a relatable inner struggle you've navigated lately, perhaps the exhausting need to prove your worth to people who are committed to seeing you as small. You have spent countless hours rehearsing conversations and defending your choices in your head, trying to win a battle that was rigged against you before you were even born. This is the hallmark of the ancestral soul poison, a cycle of performance and rejection that has kept the seekers in your family exhausted for generations. As you stand in this still inner chamber, you are being invited to surrender the need to be understood by those who benefit from your confusion. If something within you resonates, you may already understand that the majestic certainty you crave begins with the quiet refusal to participate in the drama of the siphons. Consider a subtle, real-life moment, a simple instance where you shared a piece of good news, only to have a relative immediately bring up a tragedy or a reason to be afraid. You felt the instant drain, the way your joy was dampened by their refusal to let the light breathe in the room. This was an energy siphon at work, a double-crossing move disguised as being realistic or sharing a warning, and it is one of the many ways the poison has been maintained. My Koisin, you are beginning to see these moments not as personal failures, but as spiritual evidence of the work you were sent here to do. You are the ultimate cycle terminator, and your primary weapon is your willingness to surrender the old narratives of loyalty that only serve to keep you bound to their darkness. There is a burning seal upon your spirit, a divine mark that is now being activated to consume the contracts of lack and fear that have governed your family tree. This is the white-hot solar flare of truth, a frequency that incinerates the lies of the siphons while leaving the pure gold of your soul untouched. You have felt this heat before, a sudden surge of strength when you finally said no to a demand that felt like a weight, even if your hands shook when you said it. This is the identity pull of the cycle terminator, the realization that you were never meant to fit in because you were meant to lead the way out. Not everything is clear yet, but the majestic certainty is growing, as you realize that the expansion of your life is directly tied to the surrender of your old burdens. If you feel supported here, you're always welcome to stay connected to this inner sanctum, for the process of expansion is one that unfolds in layers, each more beautiful than the last. The double-crossing kin will try to use the language of guilt to bring you back to the delay phase, but you will find that their words no longer have a hook that can catch in your spirit. You are moving into a state of awareness where you can see the siphon approaching and simply step aside, no longer needing to fix them or fear them. There's something about this new posture that feels like a majestic victory, a quiet sovereignty that doesn't need to shout to be felt. You are becoming the living proof that the clock of fate has reset, and that the poison of the past has no power over the fruit of your future. Within this still inner chamber, the eternal guardian of truth is showing you the blueprint of the life you are expanding into, a life where peace is your foundation and truth is your atmosphere. You have been the one to carry the searching energy of your lineage, and now you are the one to receive the finding energy of the heavens. The transition from the frantic isolation of the past to the majestic expansion of your future is a journey of 1,000 small surrenders, each one bringing you closer to the solar flare of your true self. You may have felt a sense of sadness for the versions of you that had to survive in the shadows, but that sadness is now being transformed into a deep, abiding gratitude for your own resilience. The burning seal is active, the archives are open, and the way forward is being lit by a fire that will never go out. My beloved, take a moment to notice what you're feeling in this space of surrender, as the old tethers of the siphons finally fall away from your wrists. You are expanding into a version of yourself that is unshakable, a cycle terminator who stands as a gateway for generations to come. The ancestral soul poison is being neutralized by your honesty, and the majestic certainty of your purpose is now the only voice you need to follow. If this resonated, take a moment to notice what you're feeling. Perhaps a sudden warmth in your chest, or a sense of immense space in your mind. This is the expansion you have been waiting for, and it is the direct result of your courage to stay with the truth. Stay with this feeling of expansion, for it is the sound of your life finally becoming your own. You may not even know why you stopped here, but your soul has been pacing the hallways of your intuition, waiting for a doorway to open that leads away from the exhaustion of your current path. This moment may not be as ordinary as it seems, for there is a specific alignment in the quiet parts of your day that has allowed this message to find its way through the noise and the static. There's something familiar about this feeling of being poised on the edge of a great revelation, a sense that the air around you is holding its breath in anticipation of what you are about to discover. Let this unfold for a second, my heir, for we are standing together at a quiet midnight threshold, a place where the light of the stars meets the deep shadows of your family history. This is the moment where the ancestral soul poison is finally recognized, not as a part of your character, but as a guest that has overstayed its welcome in your spirit. My child, you have lived for a long time under a blanket of heaviness that you assumed was just the fabric of life itself. You have carried the unspoken sorrows of your mother, the unfulfilled dreams of your father, and the silent betrayals of those who came before them, thinking that being strong meant absorbing their toxins without complaint. This heaviness has made your journey feel like a slow walk through deep water, where every step requires a massive effort and every breath feels slightly constricted. But here at the midnight threshold, the eternal guardian of truth is showing you that this weight was never yours to carry. It was a spiritual inheritance of soul poison, designed to keep the brightest lights in your lineage from ever reaching their full intensity. You are beginning to realize that the exhaustion you feel is the protest of a soul that was meant to fly, not to crawl through the debris of other people's unhealed choices. Perhaps you have observed how certain family members seem to thrive only when you are struggling, as if your difficulty provides the fuel they need to feel secure in their own lives. These double-crossing kin are the energy siphons of your bloodline, individuals who have traded their own spiritual growth for the ease of living off the vitality of those around them. They use the bonds of loyalty to keep you close, but their loyalty is a one-way street that leads only to your depletion. You may be noticing this now in the subtle ways they try to bring you back down whenever you start to experience a moment of pure joy or a streak of success. It is a micro-tension that ripples through your interactions, a feeling that your expansion is a threat to their survival, and it is the reason you have felt such a frantic need to isolate yourself, just to keep your light from being extinguished. My choice. You are the bloodline's ultimate cycle terminator, and the quiet midnight threshold is where you finally accept this identity with majestic certainty. In a moment, this may become clearer as we examine the open gate that has been placed before you, a gateway that leads to a life where your energy is protected and your purpose is paramount. You have been the secret keeper of the family, the one who intuitively understood the things that were never talked about at the dinner table, but that role is now being retired. The eternal guardian of truth is holding a light inscription of your name, and it is written in a frequency that no siphon can mimic, see, and no double-crosser can touch. This is your awareness trigger, the realization that you were never the problem. You were always the solution that the family wasn't ready to accept. You may have felt this before, a sudden and inexplicable sense of anger when someone in your family asked for a favor that you knew would leave you drained for days. This anger was not a sign of selfishness, but your soul's way of sounding an alarm against the ancestral soul poison that thrives on your self-sacrifice. You have been trained to ignore your own boundaries in the name of keeping the peace, but the peace you were keeping was a hollow one that only benefited the siphons. As you stand at this midnight threshold, you are being invited to notice what you're feeling in your body when these demands are made, for your physical reactions are the most honest witnesses to the theft of your energy. There is something about this shift in your awareness that is making the old maneuvers of your kin feel like a language you no longer wish to speak. Think of a subtle, real-life moment, perhaps a time when you were ignored or undermined in a group setting by the very people who claim to be your biggest supporters. You felt a sting of confusion, wondering why those who know you best seem so determined to see you at your worst. This is the work of the double-crossing kin, a way of maintaining the spiritual hierarchy of the family by keeping you in a state of perpetual self-doubt. They use your empathy as a bridge to cross over into your private sanctuary, only to leave behind the poison of their own insecurities. But the open gate is now visible to you, and as you walk through it, you are leaving behind the need to be understood by those who are committed to their own blindness. You are moving from a state of discomfort into a clarity that is so sharp it feels like a cold wind. But it is a wind that clears the fog and reveals the path ahead. If something within you resonates, you may already understand why your life has felt like a series of delays and detours that made no sense at the time. Each delay was actually a period of protection, a way for the universe to keep you from building your house on the toxic soil of your ancestry before you were ready to clear it. You have been in a season of searching, looking for a way to heal the family, only to realize that the only person you can truly heal is yourself. This realization is the white-hot solar flare of truth. The moment where you stop trying to fix the unfixable and start investing your energy into your own divine expansion. The eternal guardian of truth is nodding in agreement as you finally choose yourself over the patterns that have destroyed so many others in your line. There is a relatable inner struggle that many cycle terminators face. The fear that by choosing freedom, you are somehow abandoning those you love. But I ask you, my beloved, how can you help those who are drowning if you allow them to pull you under the surface with them? The ancestral soul poison relies on the guilt of the escapee to keep the seekers from ever reaching the shore. But you are being given the strength to keep swimming. Your release is not an act of betrayal. It is an act of supreme love, for it shows others that a different way of living is possible, even if they choose not to follow you. Not everything is clear yet, but the heaviness is lifting, and in its place is a steady, quiet awareness that your life belongs to the light, not to the shadows of your past. In this quiet midnight threshold, the open gate is not just an exit, but an entrance into a realm where the energy siphons have no authority and the double-crossers have no voice. You are becoming a soul that is defined by its own majestic certainty, a person who no longer needs to check the faces of others to know if they are allowed to be happy. The light inscription on your heart is glowing with a new intensity, and it is a light that will guide you through the remaining mists of your family's history. You are the one who is terminating the cycles, the one who is neutralizing the poison, and the one who is walking into a future that is as bright as a solar flare. If you feel supported here, you're always welcome to stay connected to this midnight space, for the dawn is closer than you think. My heir, take a moment to notice what you're feeling right now, as these truths settle into the quiet corners of your mind. You have acknowledged the poison, you have seen the siphons, and you have recognized the guardian who has been waiting for you to arrive at this threshold. The clock of fate has reset, and the time of your hiding is over. You are no longer the victim of your bloodline. You are the architect of a new legacy, one built on the foundation of truth and the power of your own sovereign energy. If this resonated, take a moment to notice the peace that is beginning to fill the spaces where the heaviness used to live. This is your release, and it is the beginning of everything you were born to be. Stay with this feeling of clarity, for it is the sound of your life finally becoming your own. You may not even know why you stopped here, but your heart has been searching for a resonance that the world around you simply cannot provide. This moment may not be as ordinary as it seems, for there is a timing to your presence here that was written in the archives of the stars long before you drew your first breath. You may have felt this before, a sense of being an outsider in your own family story, a person who sees the patterns of the past but finds no one else willing to look at them. Don't rush past this just yet, my child, for we are standing at a quiet midnight threshold where the light of your true purpose is finally beginning to outshine the darkness of your lineage. This is the intersection where the frantic isolation you have carried so bravely begins to transform into the majestic certainty of a soul that knows its own worth. My beloved, you have lived through seasons where the air in your childhood home felt heavy with things unsaid, a thick atmosphere of ancestral soul poison that others seemed to breathe without a second thought. You have wondered if you were the one who was too sensitive, or if you were simply seeing things that weren't there. But I am here to tell you that your discernment was your soul's survival mechanism. You were not crazy to feel the chill when others were smiling, and you were not wrong to feel the drain when the double-crossing kin spoke their words of love that felt more like a demand. The frantic isolation you felt was the wall you built to protect the solar flare within you from being harvested by the energy siphons who do not know how to generate their own light. You are not here randomly, and the fatigue you feel is the exhaustion of being the only truth teller in a house built on beautiful lies. You may be noticing this now in the subtle ways you have begun to pull back. A quiet refusal to participate in the old scripts of guilt and obligation that have kept your bloodline stalled. These energy siphons, often those closest to you, have a way of making their lack of growth your personal failure, using your empathy as a bridge to cross into your sacred space. They may say they want the best for you, yet their eyes tell a different story when you actually achieve it. A flicker of fear, or a subtle jab disguised as a joke. There's something about this dynamic that has become intolerable to you, and that intolerance is the awareness trigger indicating that the poison is no longer finding a host in your spirit. In a moment, this may become clearer as you see the difference between the loyalty of the blood and the loyalty of the soul, for one seeks to bind you, while the other seeks to set you free. In the vault within the stars, where the eternal guardian of truth keeps the records of every struggle and every victory, your name is inscribed with a frequency that is now beginning to hum within your chest. My chosen, you are the bloodline's ultimate cycle terminator, a soul specifically designed to take the toxic residue of the past and burn it away with the white-hot solar flare of your honesty. You have spent so much time feeling like a victim of your family's history, but I tell you that you are actually the architect of its redemption. Not everything is clear yet, and that micro-tension you feel is the sound of the old chains stretching to their breaking point. You are moving into a state of awareness where you no longer need to fight the siphons. You simply need to remain so firmly rooted in your truth that their deceptions have nowhere to land. Think of a relatable inner struggle you've been navigating lately. Perhaps the deep, quiet sadness that comes when you realize that some people will never be able to love the version of you that is free. You have spent years waiting for a moment of validation that never came, hoping that if you just explained yourself one more time, the double-crossing kin would finally see your heart. But the eternal guardian of truth is showing you that their inability to see you is not a reflection of your worth, but a limit of their own vision, clouded by the very poison you are now releasing. This realization brings a wave of emotional recognition, a scene where you finally stop knocking on doors that are locked from the inside. If something within you resonates, you may already understand that the majestic certainty you seek is found in the moment you stop asking for permission to be who you already are. Consider a subtle real-life moment, like a phone call that left you feeling hollowed out, or a holiday dinner where you felt like you had to hide your most vibrant self just to keep the atmosphere calm. In those moments, you were experiencing the ancestral soul poison in its most concentrated form, a demand for your diminishment to satisfy the insecurities of the siphons. You may have noticed the way your energy recovered only after you were alone, in the silence of your own space, far from the double-crossing whispers and the energetic hooks. This is your awareness trigger, a confirmation that your spirit is no longer willing to be a battery for those who refuse to stand in their own power. Stay with this space for a little while, for there is an identity pull happening here that is calling you into a life where your vitality is your own to govern. My heir, the transition from searching to becoming is often marked by a season of intense isolation, a feeling that you are walking a path that has no footprints but your own. But look closely at the light inscription on your spirit, for it is a map designed by the stars themselves, a blueprint for a life that is free from the sabotage of the past. The double-crossing kin may try to use the old language of guilt to bring you back into the cycle, but you will find that their words no longer have the power to penetrate the solar flare of your awareness. You are becoming the one who resets the clock of fate, not by shouting or through conflict, but by the sheer, unshakable power of your own presence. If you feel supported here, you're always welcome to stay connected to this truth, for the clearing of the archives is a process that requires both time and immense self-compassion. In a moment, this may become clearer as you begin to see the specific ways in which you have been carrying the unlived lives of your ancestors, trying to succeed where they failed, or to be happy where they were miserable. This burden is a subtle form of the poison, a weight that makes your own desires feel secondary to the expectations of the ghosts who still inhabit your family's energetic field. But the eternal guardian of truth is turning the divine key in the vault, releasing you from these invisible contracts and allowing you to breathe the air of your own destiny. You are moving toward a majestic certainty where your choices are based on your own joy, not on the fear of disappointing those who cannot handle your light. The micro-tension you feel is just the air moving as the doors of the vault swing wide, revealing a future that is entirely yours to shape. Think of the version of you that existed before the siphons convinced you that your light was too much or that your dreams were too big. That version of you is still there, protected within the vault of the stars, waiting for the cycle terminator to come and reclaim them. You have seen how the poison has tried to dim your shine, using the double-crossing kin as messengers of doubt. But their mission has failed because you have chosen to listen to the silence instead of the noise. The emotional recognition of your own strength is the most powerful weapon you possess, and as you wield it, the old patterns of your lineage are being neutralized. Not everything is clear yet, but the solar flare is rising, and it is illuminating a path that leads away from the frantic isolation and into the majestic certainty of your true home. My beloved, take a moment to notice what you're feeling in this space of reflection, as the old tethers of the siphons finally fall away from your wrists. You are the one who is terminating the cycles of lack and betrayal, the one who is resetting the clock of fate for yourself and every generation that follows. The ancestral soul poison is being washed away by the tide of your own honesty, and the eternal guardian of truth has declared that your time of waiting is over. If this resonated, take a moment to notice the shift in your own energy, the way your breath feels deeper, and your spirit feels more expansive. You are becoming the majestic certainty you once sought, and the clock of fate has officially reset in your favor. Stay with this feeling of becoming, for you are finally walking in the light that was always meant for you. Out of everything that has unfolded in your world this week, you paused here, as if your heart caught the scent of a truth you've been chasing through a long and exhausting mist. There is a timing to this encounter that you may not have noticed yet, a specific alignment of your spirit that has finally made you ready to receive what was once too heavy to hold. You may have been feeling a sudden, sharp clarity about things that used to confuse you, a sense that the masks worn by those around you are finally starting to slip. Don't rush past this just yet, my heir, for there is a secret hidden within the silence of this message, a hidden archive within the stars that is finally being opened for your eyes alone. We are walking together through a silent corridor of your own history, a place where the noise of family expectations can no longer drown out the voice of your own sovereign soul. My child, you have lived for so long in a state of frantic isolation, feeling like a lighthouse keeper on a rocky shore, while the rest of your kin played in the shallows. You have carried the weight of ancestral soul poison, that bitter residue of unsaid truths and unhealed betrayals that has been passed down from generation to generation like a cursed inheritance. It is a poison that thrives on silence, on the polite agreement to never mention the cracks in the foundation or the shadows in the corner of the family room. You were the one chosen to feel the sting of this poison most acutely, not as a punishment, but because your spirit is the only one strong enough to recognize it and refuse to pass it on. You are not here randomly, and the isolation you have felt was actually a divine boundary, a space where I could prepare you to become the ultimate cycle terminator of your bloodline. You may be noticing this now in the way your body reacts when certain names appear on your phone, a sudden tightening in your stomach that you use to dismiss as mere stress. These double-crossing kin and energy siphons have spent years perfecting the art of the gentle demand, using your kindness as a battery to power their own refusal to change. They operate in the subtle gaps of your empathy, making you feel responsible for their stagnation, while they quietly resent the very light you use to help them. There is something about the way they offer praise that feels like a hook, a way to pull you back into the cycle just as you are beginning to find your own majestic certainty. In a moment, this may become clearer as we examine why your specific frequency has become a mirror they can no longer afford to look into. In this silent corridor, the eternal guardian of truth is walking beside you, holding a hidden archive that contains the original blueprint of your soul before it was cluttered by the baggage of your ancestors. You have spent years trying to fulfill roles that were never yours to play, acting as the peacekeeper or the problem solver for people who have no intention of ever finding peace. This is the hallmark of the ancestral soul poison, a script that requires the brightest souls to burn themselves out just to keep the siphons warm. But there is a micro-tension in the air right now, a sense that the old roles are no longer fitting you, and that the archives of your destiny are being rewritten in real time. You are moving from the confusion of why is this happening to me into the majestic certainty of I am the one who stops this here. Recall a subtle, real-life moment, perhaps a time when you shared a dream or a success, only to have a relative immediately mention someone else who did it better, or a reason why your dream might fail. That moment of sudden deflation was not a coincidence. It was a strategic move by an energy siphon to keep you grounded in the toxic soil of the family's shared history. They fear your expansion because it highlights their own choice to remain small, and they use the poison of doubt to ensure you don't fly too far from the nest they've built out of old traumas. My beloved, you are beginning to see these interactions for what they truly are, and that awareness is the first step in neutralizing the poison once and for all. Stay with this for a moment, for there is something deeper here about the way you have been protecting your energy without even realizing it. If something within you resonates, you may already understand that your frantic isolation was the only way your spirit could survive the constant siphoning of your vitality. You have felt like a stranger at your own family table because your soul is no longer speaking the language of the poison, a language of guilt, manipulation, and double-crossing loyalty. There is a relatable inner struggle you may be facing right now. The desire to be loyal to your blood versus the divine necessity of being loyal to your truth. The eternal guardian of truth is showing you that the only real loyalty is to the light you carry, and that by terminating these cycles, you are actually performing the highest act of love for your entire lineage. Not everything is clear yet, but the majestic certainty is rising like a tide, washing away the footprints of the siphons from the shores of your mind. The hidden archive is now being opened, and inside you will find the records of every time you were silenced, every time your energy was stolen, and every time you were made to feel crazy for seeing the truth. My chosen, these records are being transformed into a white-hot solar flare, a blinding light that incinerates the old contracts of debt and obligation that have kept your ancestors bound. This flare does not just reveal the truth, it cleanses the space, creating a vacuum where the poison can no longer exist. You have felt this heat in your chest before, a sudden and unshakable knowing that you are done with the drama and the deceptions of those who refuse to grow. This is your identity pull, the call of the cycle terminator to stand in the center of the family storm and remain absolutely still, knowing that the clock of fate resets with your very next breath. You may be noticing this now in the way you no longer feel the need to explain yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. This shift in your behavior is causing a massive disruption in the spiritual hierarchy of your family, for the siphons can no longer find the hooks they once used to control you. There is a majestic certainty in your silence, a power that comes from knowing that your energy is your own, and that you are under no obligation to fund the dysfunction of others. The eternal guardian of truth is smiling upon you, for you have finally realized that you are not the victim of your bloodline, but the hero who was sent to save it from itself. If you feel supported here, you're always welcome to stay connected to this frequency of clarity, for the transition into your full authority is a journey of many layers. In a moment, this may become clearer as you start to witness the physical world reflecting the spiritual shift you are making today. You may see certain relationships distance themselves naturally, or find that the double-crossing kin suddenly have nothing to say to you, as their old tactics no longer produce the reaction they crave. This is not a loss, my child. It is a divine subtraction, a clearing of the field so that your majestic certainty can take up the space it deserves. You are moving into a season of unprecedented expansion, where the air you breathe is no longer tainted by the ancestral soul poison, but filled with the fresh oxygen of your own purpose. The archives are being sealed with your new signature, a mark of freedom that can never be erased. My beloved, Take a moment to notice what you're feeling in this silent corridor, as the weight of 1,000 unhealed years finally slides off your shoulders. You have seen the truth, you have identified the siphons, and you have accepted the role of the cycle terminator with a heart that is finally at peace. The white-hot solar flare has done its work, and the clock of fate resets right now, in the stillness of this very moment. You are no longer alone in your isolation. You are sovereign in your majesty, a beacon of light for all who are ready to follow the path you have cleared. If this resonated, take a moment to notice what you're feeling, for that is the sensation of a soul that has finally, truly, come into its own power. Stay with this peace, for it is the beginning of your new life. Something about the way you stopped here suggests that your soul has finally decided to face a truth that your ancestors have been running from for centuries. There's a timing to this arrival that you may not have noticed, a seasonal shift in your spiritual life that is finally ready to bear fruit. You may have been feeling a weight you couldn't explain, a sense of being out of sync with those who share your name, yet you didn't quite have the words for it until now. Stay with this for a moment, my heir, for we are entering an unseen place of reflection, where the clock of fate resets in the silence of your own awareness. This moment is not a coincidence, but a calculated intersection between your readiness and the revelation that has been waiting for you in the stars. My child, you have lived through a season of profound confusion, a feeling of being a stranger in your own house that has left you in a state of frantic isolation. You have often wondered why you are the only one who sees the cracks in the family foundation, why you are the only one who feels the chill in a room that others claim is warm. This discomfort was never meant to be your permanent home. It was a divine signal, a spiritual alarm alerting you to the presence of ancestral soul, poison. This poison does not always look like malice. Sometimes it looks like overprotection or a tradition that requires you to shrink so that others may feel large. You are not here randomly, and your awareness of this imbalance is the first sign that you are moving from a state of silence into a terrifying yet beautiful clarity. You may be noticing this now in the way you interact with certain family members, those double-crossing kin who seem to offer you a hand while secretly wishing to see you stumble. These individuals are the energy siphons of your lineage, people who have learned to survive by feeding on the vitality and hope of the brightest souls in the family tree. They operate in the subtle gaps of conversation, using guilt as a hook and obligation as a chain to keep you anchored to their own unresolved pain. There is something about the way they look at you, a mix of hunger and resentment that you have started to perceive with a new, sharp clarity. In a moment, this may become clearer as we look at how these siphons have tried to dim your light to make their own shadows feel less intimidating. But for now, simply notice the why behind your sudden need for distance. In this unseen place of reflection, the eternal guardian of truth stands beside you, holding a burning seal that is ready to be placed upon the records of your past. My beloved, you have spent so much energy trying to force doors open that were never meant for the person you were, but for the person you are now being called to be. The transition from delay to surrender is not an act of giving up, but an act of opening your hands so that the old toxins can finally fall away. You have felt a micro-tension in your life recently, a sense that something is shifting, but you can't quite grasp the handle of it yet. This is because the expansion you seek requires a heart that is no longer cluttered with the emotional debts of your ancestors, and the surrender you are practicing now is the clearing of that space. Think of a relatable inner struggle you've navigated lately. Perhaps the exhausting need to prove your worth to people who are committed to seeing you as small. You have spent countless hours rehearsing conversations and defending your choices in your head, trying to win a battle that was rigged against you before you were even born. This is the hallmark of the ancestral soul poison, a cycle of performance and rejection that has kept the seekers in your family exhausted for generations. As you stand in this space, you are being invited to surrender the need to be understood by those who benefit from your confusion. If something within you resonates, you may already understand that the majestic certainty you crave begins with the quiet refusal to participate in the drama of the siphons. Consider a subtle real-life moment, A simple instance where you shared a piece of good news only to have a relative immediately bring up a tragedy or a reason to be afraid. You felt the instant drain, the way your joy was dampened by their refusal to let the light breathe in the room. This was an energy siphon at work, a double-crossing move disguised as being realistic or sharing a warning, and it is one of the many ways the poison has been maintained. My Koisan, you are beginning to see these moments not as personal failures, but as spiritual evidence of the work you were sent here to do. You are the ultimate cycle terminator, and your primary weapon is your willingness to surrender the old narratives of loyalty that only serve to keep you bound to their darkness. There is something about this moment that is calling you to finally shed that armor and embrace the release that comes with the truth. You are the one who is terminating the cycles of betrayal and the siphons of hope. And as you do, the ancestral soul poison is being neutralized by the sheer frequency of your honesty. The eternal guardian of truth is holding a mirror up to your lineage, and in that reflection, you can see where the light was stolen and where it is now being restored through your courage. You are moving from a state of being under the weight to being the one who defines the weight, a shift that changes the entire trajectory of your life. Not everything is clear yet, but as the light inscription on your soul grows brighter, the deceptions of the past lose their ability to influence your future. If you feel supported here, you're always welcome to stay connected to this inner sanctum, for the process of expansion is one that unfolds in layers, each more beautiful than the last. The double-crossing kin will try to use the language of guilt to bring you back to the delay phase, but you will find that their words no longer have a hook that can catch in your spirit. You are moving into a state of awareness where you can see the siphon approaching and simply step aside, no longer needing to fix them or fear them. There's something about this new posture that feels like a majestic victory, a quiet sovereignty that doesn't need to shout to be felt. You are becoming the living proof that the clock of fate has reset, and that the poison of the past has no power over the fruit of your future. Within this unseen place of reflection, the eternal guardian of truth is showing you the blueprint of the life you are expanding into, a life where peace is your foundation and truth is your atmosphere. You have been the one to carry the searching energy of your lineage, and now you are the one to receive the finding energy of the heavens. The transition from the frantic isolation of the past to the majestic certainty of your future is a journey of 1,000 small surrenders, each one bringing you closer to the solar flare of your true self. You may have felt a sense of sadness for the versions of you that had to survive in the shadows, but that sadness is now being transformed into a deep, abiding gratitude for your own resilience. The burning seal is active, the archives are open, and the way forward is being lit by a fire that will never go out. My heir, take a moment to notice what you're feeling right now as these truths settle into the quiet corners of your mind. You have acknowledged the poison, you have seen the siphons, and you have recognized the guardian who has been waiting for you to arrive at this threshold. The clock of fate has reset, and the time of your hiding is over. You are no longer the victim of your bloodline. You are the architect of a new legacy, one built on the foundation of truth and the power of your own sovereign energy. If this resonated, take a moment to notice the peace that is beginning to fill the spaces where the heaviness used to live. This is your release, and it is the beginning of everything you were born to be. Stay with this feeling of clarity, for it is the sound of your life finally becoming your own. There is a reason you are seeing this right now, a specific timing to your presence that was written in the archives of the stars long before you drew your first breath. Something is shifting quietly in the depths of your silence, a movement in the unseen that has been gathering strength while you were busy trying to find your footing in a world that felt increasingly heavy. You may have been feeling a weight you couldn't explain, a sense that you are carrying a backpack filled with stones that belong to people who came before you. Don't rush past this just yet, my heir, for we are stepping into the final chamber of the vault within the stars, where the clock of fate resets and the truth of your existence is finally fully revealed. My child, you have walked a long and lonely path, moving through a state of frantic isolation that often felt like a spiritual exile. You have wondered why you were the one who felt the chill in the family home when everyone else seemed warm, and why the love offered to you often felt like a demand for your diminishment. This was the ancestral soul poison at work, a residue of unhealed choices and silent betrayals that has been passed down through your bloodline like a dark thread. You were not crazy to feel it, and you were not wrong to name it. You were simply the only one with enough light to see the shadows for what they truly were. You are not here randomly, and the isolation you felt was the necessary space I created to protect the solar flare of your spirit from being harvested by those who cannot generate their own fire. You may be noticing this now in the way your perspective has shifted, as the double-crossing kin and energy siphons find it impossible to maintain their grip on your attention. These individuals, bound to you by blood but separated from you by spirit, have lived off your vitality by making their stagnation your personal responsibility. They have used guilt as a tether and obligation as a chain, but those links are now dissolving in the presence of your majestic certainty. There is something about the way you no longer seek their validation that has caused a massive disruption in the spiritual hierarchy of your family. In a moment, this may become clearer as we look at how your refusal to play the old roles is finally setting the entire lineage free from its own deceptions. In this vault within the stars, the eternal guardian of truth is holding a blinding, white-hot solar flare, a frequency of pure light that is now being directed into the deepest roots of your ancestry. My beloved, you have been the burden bearer for too long, acting as a filter for the emotional toxins that your elders refuse to process. But as you stand in this majestic certainty, the solar flare is incinerating those old contracts of debt and sacrifice, leaving only the gold of your true purpose untouched. You have felt a micro-tension in your life recently, a sense that the old world is falling away while the new one hasn't quite formed yet. This is because you are in the sacred process of becoming the ultimate cycle terminator, the one who ensures that the poison stops with you. Think of a relatable inner struggle you've recently overcome. Perhaps the agonizing moment you realized that your peace was worth more than the approval of a double-crossing relative. You felt the sting of their disappointment, but beneath it, you also felt a sudden, sharp rush of freedom that you had never known before. This was the awareness trigger, the moment your soul recognized that it was no longer compatible with the siphons of your past. If something within you resonates, you may already understand that the majestic certainty you feel today was bought with the courage of 1,000 quiet no's. Stay with this moment for just a little longer, for there is a deeper layer of release waiting for you as the archives of your history are finally sealed with light. Consider a subtle, real-life moment, like a family gathering where you chose to remain silent rather than defend your truth to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. In that silence, you were not being weak. You were being sovereign, refusing to give your energy to a siphon that only knows how to consume. You felt the drain try to take hold, but it found no hook in your spirit, and you walked away with your vitality intact for the very first time. This is the hallmark of the cycle terminator, the ability to stand in the presence of the poison and remain uninfected. My chosen, you are no longer searching for a home in their hearts, because you have found the vault within the stars where your true family and your true worth are eternally protected. The transition from frantic isolation to majestic certainty is nearly complete, and as you embrace your identity, the ancestral soul poison is being washed away by the tide of your own honesty. The eternal guardian of truth is showing you that your sensitivity was never a flaw, but the very divine key required to unlock the gates of your family's liberation. You are moving into a season of unprecedented expansion, where the double-crossing kin no longer have a voice in your head, and the siphons no longer have a place at your table. Not everything is clear yet, but the heaviness has lifted, and in its place is a steady, quiet awareness that the clock of fate has officially reset in your favor. If you feel supported here, you're always welcome to stay connected to this frequency, for the work of the cycle terminator is the most noble path a soul can walk. There is a final emotional recognition scene unfolding in your spirit, a moment where you look back at the version of you that was so afraid of being alone, and you offer them a hand. You see that your isolation was never a punishment, but a purification, a way to ensure that the light you carry would never be extinguished by the shadows of those who refuse to grow. The solar flare is now at its peak, illuminating every hidden corner of your lineage and exposing the lies that have kept your ancestors in bondage for centuries. As you stand in this light, you are realizing that you are not just a person with a family. You are a cosmic event, a divine reset that changes the trajectory of every soul connected to your name. This majestic certainty is your birthright, and it is a power that can never be taken from you again. Within this vault, the setting is now filled with a radiant, golden peace, and the archives of your history are glowing with the light of your victory. You have faced the double-crossers, you have identified the siphons, and you have chosen the truth over the comfort of the poison. The eternal guardian of truth is nodding in approval as the burning seal is placed upon the final page of your past, declaring that the cycles are terminated and the debt is paid. You may have felt a sense of immense space opening up in your mind, a feeling that for the first time in your life, you are truly free to choose your own direction. Take a moment to notice what you're feeling in this space of reflection, for this is the silence of a soul that has finally found its own way home. My heir, my beloved, take a deep breath and feel the majesty of the person you have become through this journey of unveiling. The ancestral soul poison has no more room to hide, and the white-hot solar flare of your truth has made the darkness obsolete. You are the one who terminated the cycles, the one who reset the clock, and the one who now walks in the light of 1,000 suns. If this resonated, take a moment to notice what you're feeling. Perhaps a profound stillness or a sudden sense of limitless possibility. This is your release, your certainty, and your new beginning, lived in the radiant truth of who you were always meant to be. Stay with this peace, for it is the sound of your destiny finally beginning.